about a kind of systematic way or approach to looking at the learner in terms of what do they know, where are they coming from, what can they do, and then how best can this be inculcated in them moving forward. Yeah.
What background are we working with that necessitated this dynamic shift in delivery of our curriculum? What informed this?
What informed this was the fact that we needed to be in line with the 21st century skills. Where we are coming from in the 844, there are areas that we do not touch on how the learner is in terms of practicality. We are more of theoretical and exam-oriented, unlike competency-based assessment where we are geared towards being hands-on in all the activities that the learners carry out. In terms of, are they able to make something out of what they learn? Are they able to practically come up with objects in line with the real-life situations? So we are coming from abstract learning to real-life tasks or real-life learning, whereby they are hands-on in all the activities that they are carrying out.
It took a bit of time for acceptance to be there concerning this. I mean, since the rollout of the competency-based curriculum to date, as we are in the stage of constructing classrooms for junior secondary, what should you say about the progress so far?
In line with the construction of classes?
No. In line with the progress of the implementation of the competency-based curriculum, people still were a bit skeptical about accepting it. What would you say about, how far we've gone as a country?
We've made tremendous progress. The learners are excited, especially, and then you can also see there's envy from the other classes, that is the 844 team. They're kind of envious of what these other learners are doing because they're seeing that there's more practical and practicality in everything they do. They're hands-on. The learners are able to carry home and take away whatever they've learned from school and actually practically carry it out in their homes. So we are saying that there's a lot of change, and we can now see positivity in terms of parents accepting and the learners and teachers also accepting that this is the way to go, because there's a lot of change that has taken place in the terms of even pedagogy. The teachers are now changed their focus on the way they approach to teaching and learning. It's more of facilitating the learners other than standing in front of the class to teach the lesson.
All right.
So
before we get to just to understand more about competency-based assessment, because that's the topic of our conversation this morning, one would be interested to know what are these competencies or values that we are looking at to inculcate in the minds of these learners. What is it that forms part of that list?
We have 7 core competencies, and these are the 7 C's. We have communication and collaboration, we have citizenship, we have creativity and imagination, we have learning to learn, we have digital literacy. And those are some of the major core competencies that we need to inculcate in the learners. We're talking of values of being responsible, honesty, So these are basics that were not there before, but now need to be inculcated in the learners moving forward so that they can be able to fit into society and be able to present some of these values moving forward.
A learner who has gone through this, particular system of education, how would you describe, what type of a learner are we trying to achieve by ensuring that they acquire these competencies and these values? What future are we looking at?
We are looking at a learner who is holistic. And this learner is able to fit in every society, because remember they also talked about citizenship as one of the core competencies that need to be inculcated in them. They'll be able to fit in all forms of society. They're meeting up with different kinds of people within the communities. They're able to understand the different cultures of the different learners that they interact with. They're able to present themselves. They're able to be learners that know more about corrupt ways of society, the evils of society, and how to go about them. They're learners who are able to solve problems. Problem solving is one of the key competencies that also are really being stressed on in CBC. So we are talking about a learner who will be able to do all forms of tasks by being innovative, by improvising, and by kind of trying as much as possible to ensure that they communicate and collaborate with one another in the best terms possible. Yeah.
All right. This is actually coming at a time when the country is actually shifting from what was commonly known as the theory way of learning, and also the memorizing way of learning, to a kind of learning that will enable the learner to be able to do something for themselves, to make critical decisions, and of course also to be able to acquire the values that Genevieve has cited there. But I'm looking at the list and even the examples of the competencies that you have cited, and this actually is something that teachers alone cannot be able to acquire. Probably talk to us about the role of the parent in ensuring that the learner acquires some of these competencies and all that.
Thank you very much. Parental engagement in CBC or CBA for that matter is quite crucial. We are saying that as learners get to learn at school, parents are also being engaged and trained in terms of when they have their meetings at school, to be able are told on what are the expectations of this learner, because you're trying to create a learner that at the end of the day is wholesome in terms of, are they honest in everything that they do at school? Are they able to communicate and collaborate with one another? Do they have fights here and there? Are they able to solve a problem? For example, you send a learner to the shop to buy an item. Are they able to know that this is the change that is required for me to come back with? This is what I've been sent to do. Like in before, we always make fun of this. You'd be sent to the shops and you keep cramming everything that you've been told to buy. So I've been told to sugar, blood, sugar, sweets and all that. So now we are saying that this should be taught at school. Financial literacy should also be taught at school for the learners to be able to understand this. So how do we bring in the parents? Parents can come in through the teachers when they have open days, and then this is always they're reminded that this is what the learner is expected to do, this is how it is done, and all this literature for those who are able to read is available on the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development website. The same is also available in the KNEC websites. We also now have even an interactive app on the where anybody having any phone can be able to download and be able to check real time on how the progress of the learner is at school and where they have challenges. Remember, we are moving from a way of saying excellent, has done well, has done this, but we are being more, we kind of explain that real time, qualitatively. You actually pinpoint and say, this is where Genevieve has a challenge, this is where Serfine has a challenge. So with all that in mind, then we are moving forward, and all these learners will come out whole, and the parents will be more engaged by all this being done, and we'll see a lot of how can I put it? There's a lot that Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development is doing with regards to this. In terms of when we go, they go out monitoring. Are they able to meet these communities around the school? Are they these community service learning? Are they able to work with the communities around them? So with that, then it filters right into the community within the school. So we're encouraging work around the communities. If there's an expert in the community that can be able to talk to the learners about, for example, in the arts, how to make pottery, how to do ceramics, how to do sculptures, how to do a dance, then as they come in and interact, they are able to actually see what competencies are expected out of these learners and what values can be inculcated in them when they are also out of school.
There has been concern, what you're saying is important, because there's been concern from certain quarters about the kind of the academic system that we are going through right now. People would cite, you're taught something that you would not even be able to apply in your afterlife. Like, for example, you when you become an adult and you're employed, there are certain mathematical formulas or scientific formulas that probably you ask yourself, why were we taken through, this? So my question then is, are we moving away from that academic content completely, or we are looking at a hybrid system of education that will not only will incorporate that content and the life skills that you're talking about?
Thank you very much. Yes, competence-based assessment is not going to be abstract. It's real life.
Okay.
We are engaging with real life tasks, what every learner, every parent can resonate with.
So everything else that is irrelevant is left out?
We can't say really it's irrelevant, because there are cases where some aspects in mathematics or physics make sense depending on the pathway that a learner will want to pick. All right? So we are not saying everything is ruled out, everything that was done was wrong. No. We're just saying now we are getting more focused on what is it that we want this learner to be. The learner will decide, depending on their interest and the pathway that they pick on. When I talk about pathways, is the career path that they'll end up choosing depending on where their skills and abilities are. With that, then it will be possible that we are not abstract, but we are being more real in every aspect that we do. Yes.
What mindset change will the teachers then require to be able to identify these capabilities, these abilities in every learner? Because we have to agree, each and every one of them is different and has skills in different areas.
Yes.
So talk to the teachers. What is it that they will need to be able to, measure up to this new system of education?
Thank you very much. I'm glad to also report that with this change of mindset, a lot has been done with the teachers. The teachers have been trained, one out in each school, because we have 30,000 primary schools in the Republic of Kenya, out of which 6 teachers have been trained on expectations of competency-based curriculum and competency-based assessment. This has been quite successful because it's a multi-agency approach whereby we have personnel from the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, the Kenya National Examinations Council, we have personnel from SEMASTIA, we have personnel from Kenya Institute of Special Education, we have personnel from Quality Assurance and Standards, we have personnel from the ground, those are curriculum support officers, we have champion teachers that were initially identified when all this began. So with all this teams coming together to train the teachers, then a lot has been. And I also want to tell you that this has been quite interactive. So with all this being interactive, the teachers have been able to now see the mindset, the shift from being abstract, from being a teacher standing in front of class to being a facilitator. All right?
Okay.
So you let it be the learners to take charge as you stand in the back and guide them on what is expected. This has been quite positively received because the teachers are now able to actually tell the difference, because we are moving from hiding the mark scheme, what we are now calling the scoring guide. Before, all that was under lock and key, but now the teacher has been asked to come out of that and actually give the learners these marking schemes or marking guides so that the learners know exactly what is it that is expected of me. We are moving from a score A, 80, which we could not really substantiate what that means. We are moving to where we are able to tell the learner, you are meeting expectation, or you are exceeding expectation, or you are below expectation, or you are approaching expectation. Qualitative reporting. They are now able to say exactly where is the challenge when it comes to all this. You're now able to tell me, Susan is able to count 1 to 10, however has a challenge counting 10 backwards, all right? Has a challenge in writing letter P and Q, however is very good at writing all the letters of the alphabet, is able to read this number of words per minute, however has a challenge with this. So you actually pinpoint so that whoever is taking over this learner in the next level knows exactly where the problem is. As they go back home, as you report, the teachers are also now able to tell through the parents from the reporting, from the journals that they write, that this is where your daughter or your son needs help. All right? We are coming from a place whereby we are telling the teachers, you are not going to move forward unless the learners understand the concept that is being taught. You are moving forward. Where there's a challenge, you have to go back and give a learner a personalized kind of approach, where you're personalizing and trying to get them through where they have challenges. So it's not anymore a matter of, I want to complete the syllabus. It is...
It's about the quality that is coming out of it, and whether the learner is getting the concept, for lack of a better term. I like that personalized, kind of a teaching environment, but how practical is it, especially in a country where we have really dealt with the burden of the student-teacher population, the ratio of the teacher and the student. I mean, we are still having a crisis there. How practical is this?
Thank you. That's an interesting question, and everybody keeps asking.
Time is of. You have to give the learner your time. You have to give them your attention. You have to really work with them throughout their learning journey. If you do this for one learner, you go to the other. You go to the other. I mean, how are we going to make this practical when we are facing the crisis of?
Very good. I need to demystify that today. You find in Kenya we have classes of about 100 students. Now, to teachers, it's doable. Remember, we say the teacher is a facilitator and not now going to stand in front there to teach. What we are saying is you are going to have your students into groups. We are no longer having classes whereby everybody is facing the blackboard, but then into those small groups, because we are saying these learners have learned to learn. They have to communicate and collaborate with one another. Once you're able to make these learners into groups in the classes, then through these learners, there'll be peer and self-assessment. They're able to do some of the things you as a teacher may not do. We're even changing the mode of assessment. It doesn't have to be pen and paper. You can still observe these students as they work in their groups, and then use an observation schedule, or just to make it simple, a write-up of expectations of a particular concept in class that you're looking at. Then once you pinpoint and say, this is what I want to see in the learners, is it values I'm looking at? Is it the competencies I'm looking at? And then as you move around class, because it's not possible, as you say, one-to-one is not going to work anytime soon. So the best way is having that. And then still on those groups, the learners could also have a scoring guide or also have a checklist so that they're able to gauge amongst themselves who has done it right and what can we do to make it even better. Open critique, open discussions, group discussions, not a matter of one person standing in front and then delivering. They used to call it verbal diarrhea to all the students in class, sorry for the lack of a better term. But yes, with that, it's possible to actually be able to cover a lesson with all these learners. Group the classes, change the seating position of the classes, have them work in groups of 6 to 8. In those groups, every time pick out a person who will be the team leader, and then the team leader now acts as, should I say, quote unquote, the teacher. And with them, open discussions, encourage them to communicate and collaborate, encourage them to discuss as a team, encourage each of them to demonstrate, encourage teamwork amongst the learners. Once that is done, it becomes very easy for the teachers to be able to manage the classroom, irrespective of the ratios. And that I want to believe with the Teacher Service Commission and what they're doing, that will change with due time.
With due time, and you hope that will happen. One thing I like, though, is that the teacher is now being transformed into a facilitator. Basically, the responsibility lies on the learners, but then now they just, sort of inject their expertise and experience there as the learners, take charge of their learning journey. But there's something you touched on earlier, but I want you to just expound it a little bit. How do you score competency? In the current dispensation, we are used to, for example, you'd get an 80%, a 50%. You can actually tell and say this one got an A, this one got a D. How do you score competency, or how do you score value, for example, to say that this learner has acquired this, has gotten these marks? Or I just want to understand how that is going to work as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Very good question, and that is what everybody has kept asking. How is it possible? Yes, it is possible. How do we do that? We are moving from the scoring dispensation, whereby you're saying there's an A, there's a B, move away from grading. We are moving to being qualitative in our reporting. And that's, as I said, we have 4 levels that we are using. Exceeding expectation is a level 4, performance level 4. Meeting expectation is 3, below expectation is 1, and approaching expectation is 2. And on this, there's a criteria in which you're going to look at depending on the task that has been given to the learners. And this criteria, it describes each and every bit of what is expected in a particular task. Let me give you an example in my area, art. For example, art, if the learners are doing leaf printing, there could be various aspects that you'll be looking at. For example, are they able to collect the leaves? Are they able to go out there and collect the leaves? Yes. Are they able to categorize and arrange the leaves to make a pattern? Yes. Are they able to take paint and put it on the leaves? Yes. So what I'm saying, yes, are the criterias. So once all these are listed, then the teacher is able to actually see, and the learner herself or himself is able to see, this is what is expected of me in this particular task. On top of that, as you're doing all these tasks, there are elements you're looking out for. When they went collecting these leaves, was there teamwork? Was there communication and collaboration? Were they able to talk to one another? Were they able to collaborate with one another? So all this is also listed amongst the criteria you're looking out for as much as you are teaching a practical component, okay? Values, honesty, responsibility. Are they clearing their working areas? That's a sign of responsibility. That is one of the criteria that you'll have in your scoring guide, that this is what I'm going to look for. So yes, already you're looking at a value, responsibility, honesty. Did they do the works themselves? Yes, honesty is there. They did the work. If not, somebody else did it. So all these are subsumed. You may not just wake up and say, today I'm going to look at values, honesty, responsibility, and the like. Today I'm going to look at this particular core competency. No, all these are subsumed into the task or the learning area that you're looking at a particular time. So yes, it is possible, and with all these descriptors well described in the scoring guide, you're able to pick out and state as you're using your observation schedule to actually score this. So at the end of the day, you'll find that a learner may not have gotten all the performance levels, but at least has exceeded in some areas, maybe in teamwork, in communication and collaboration. They may not have been an expert in the activity they've been given, but they're experts in terms of the competency they have acquired. They have acquired some kind of value in life, of integrity, being honest, and the like. So with time, you ensure that you're building on these competencies, and you're building on these skills, and you're building on these values as they move forward. Yeah.
So do these, move to a level where, for example, in other spheres, you say beginner, and then you go to a more advanced type of content for the learners. Do we have that kind of an arrangement as well? And what would determine, a learner moving from one level to another? What are some of the principles that, need to be considered before you move the learner from one level to the next?
Thank you for that. Yes, that is available. Yeah. And we're saying that the designs were made in such a way that it's cyclic. It gets advanced as they move from one grade to another. Remember, we have early years education. At the early years, we have pre-primary 1 and pre-primary 2. At pre-primary 1 and pre-primary 2, what the learners are doing is basically having activities that help build their motor skills. In terms of, they have language activities, they have mathematical or numeracy activities, they have indigenous language activities. So they're all doing activities hands-on. There's nothing really more about written and all that. And as they move on to lower primary, that is the grade 1, 2, and 3, it gets advanced. What they've done in grade 2, 1, there's an advanced of it in grade 2 and keeps moving grade 3. So either way, whoever picks up the learner will be able to pick up on where they left from and keep developing that competency or that skill as they move up to grade 6. Yes.
And what are the principles that need to be considered before a learner moves from, say, one grade to the other? Considering the fact that you said earlier that the teacher cannot move to the next step before a learner acquires a certain competency. So how do you, how do you move with this group when one is? There are different levels. How do you work with such kind of a difference in learning?
Remember, we are saying that there's individualized planning and learning with the learners. We are saying that these learners should be able to work as teams, should be able to work as collaborating with one another. So what we are saying is, one of the aspects that the teacher should look out for is, you are responsible for this learner. How best would you ensure that this learner has acquired the competency or the skills in a particular learning area before they move forward? All right? So solely the teacher now has a bigger task, and are answerable. Because at the end of the day, you need to ensure that this learner came into this class, they did not know how to read. At the end of a particular grade, there are principles that are being put in place for each learning areas that at the end of this level, this learner should be able to acquire up to this. At this level, this learner should be able to read up to this level. So parents are brought on board here because they are made aware. That's why we're talking about parental engagement. At the end of this level, my daughter or my son should be able to read. For parents who are not literate, then the teachers, there's a check with the Teacher Service Commission. Remember, they have the performance contracts. So really, if there are complaints that are arising, that a learner has moved to this level, is not able to count, so that means there's a gap. So how do we solve this gap? So we are saying the head teachers and the principals have a lot of work to do here, because they have to be on check. And we're also encouraging group teaching as teachers, because the learner may not be good at receiving guidance from a particular teacher, but then request for help from teamwork, request for help from another teacher. How best can we help this learner be able to read? We're talking about giving extra work, and we're talking about having a lot of reading materials, which I must say the Ministry of Education has done a lot in the Republic through the presidency, that a lot of materials are in supply for these learners to be able to actually be able to meet up to these expectations before they move to the next level. And we are saying nothing will deter a learner from moving to the next grade, because either way, you're looking at a learner as an individual and not as a group anymore. So as they move forward, challenges are to an individual and not as a group. So as they move forward, where their challenge has to be brought out qualitatively, and the next person will be able to pick it up from where they have left.
And it can be dealt with in a personalized way. They can create time for addressing that. What cost implications does it come with for the parents, for example, for the school, and even for the government implementing this type of a learning system?
For the government, it's at a cost. But for the parents, there's no cost.
There is no cost?
There's no cost. Why do I say there's no cost?
Tell us a bit about that.
We are talking about improvisation. Avoid downloads. Avoid printing. Remember, all public primary schools were provided with laptops, were provided with tablets.
But are they there?
Yes.
And I want us to be as realistic as possible.
Yes.
Are they there?
All the public primary schools that were in existence before 2017 were provided with laptops, were provided with projectors, were provided with laptops for the teachers, 2 laptops per school, and depending on the classes, some have to between 50 to 100 plus tablets. Now, why am I going there? Because there's hue and cry about printing.
And
Go and print this. Go to the cyber, do this. Yes.